Welcome to the Meditation Realm, Planeswalkers. I'm Caleb, your guide through these blind eternities, and in today's video, we have the Secret Lair Commander deck, from Cute to Brute. We actually got this one in a reasonable time, unlike the last one that we had. Oh, it was terrible. Waiting forever for that Heads I Win, Tails You Lose Commander deck. Oh, you know, we got a strong seal. There we go. Thank you for being a part of Secret Lair, and thank you for being a part of this opening. Check out the sweet new cards in this. I guess it's not any new cards, but there's new art for several cards, new foil art treatments. I believe a good chunk of the deck is foil, and then the rest is non-foil. There's supposed to be a good number of reprints, and you know they're all flip cards, which has its merit. There's a lot of playable flip cards, and they're basically modal. Interesting. So you get a foil spin down life counter with Ormondal as the character for it. It's pretty cool. I don't think I've seen a foil spin down life counter before. That's neat. That's good for you collectors out there. And then we have from Cute to Brute. Oh, look at that. We got Bolas going through all of his phases. Baby, kid, teenager, college student, omnipotent overlord, and tyrant. And then in the reverse. Oh, they just did red versus green. That was an opportunity to do different art for both sides. But okay, on to the cards. Check out all these sweet babies. So we'll first go over these new cards at the front here. We have Esika, God of the Tree, and we have her cute side. And then we have the Brute side, the Prismatic Bridge. And these are the thicker tokens, so that you can thicker cards, so you can use them as your commanders for those people, and then have the other foil in your other decks. So I'm always a big fan of these for that whole purpose. These aren't foiled though, which I'm used to these being foil etched. But so we got 9 foil of that. We have Archangel Avacyn and the Avacyn the Purifier on the back. Bloodline Keeper. Well, this can't be your commander, but this is a thick one. With Lord of Lineage on the back. Nicol Bolas, the Ravager. With his Nicol Bolas, the Arisen on the backside. I like that art, but front side's so cute. This definitely doesn't fit him. It is amusing to an extent. And then the Westvale Abbey with Ormondal on the backside. And those are all the thick ones. And then we have the actual foil ones of them, and these are the real ones here. We got the Prismatic Bridge. Ooh, yeah, and foil. That definitely looks sweet. And then we got Archangel Avacyn here. The Purifier. The Bloodline Keeper. Yeah, definitely in foil, all of these have a different hit to them. They definitely look very sweet. Ooh, that Bolas hits nice. Definitely going to find a home for him somewhere. You know I love my Bolas. And then we got Westvale Abbey with good old Ormondal. And then we have the best of the rest. We have this deck. A lot of good flip cards in here from what I had looked last time. So we're going to go through here. We got Kithian, which is before he became a man and turned into Gideon. Pretty common to be used as a Gideon tribal commander. Legion's Landing, which flips into Adanto, the first fort. Ondu Inversion. I recommend this for a lot of decks because it's a board wipe, which is decent, destroying everything. And then also it's got a land on the back, so it always helps you hit your land drops. All those modal lands, like this deck has several of them. Excuse me. I think it's going to help keep this deck's value because those are just playable, very playable. So yeah, we got Cosima, God of the Voyage, which really hasn't been that playable. I haven't seen very many people play this in Commander, which turns into the Omen Keel. Jace Vryn's Prodigy definitely sees play in a lot of places and has been going up, so that's a good sweet one. We got Search for Azcanta. Another good card I recommend for Commander because it flips into a land that's relevant, being able to get you card advantage. Hagra Mauling, another great one. Also a dual modal, has a land on the back. Liliana, Heretical Healer, which flips into her Planeswalker side, the Defiant Necromancer. Sees a lot of Commander play in those tiny Reanimator decks. I play her in a couple decks. We have Valky, God of Lies, which flips into Tybalt, who was the imposter the whole time. And this is actually the playable version of Tybalt, unlike his OG 2-drop version. If you've ever seen anybody play them, please teach them better magic. Voldaren Pariah, which transforms into the Abolisher of Bloodlands. It would have been so interesting if somehow we could have seen like Phyrexianized Eldrazi in this last war, but it didn't happen. Would have been double the horror. Chandra, Fire of Kaladesh, which flips into her Planeswalker version, the Roaring Flame. Valakut Awakening, another one of those modal, turns into a land. I recommend. Kolvari, God of Kinship. I recommend playing in your Legendary Matters decks. If you don't play her as just the creature, which is relevant, being able to get card advantage, you can just play her as a mana rock, and it lets you be able to cheat out creatures quicker. So both forms are relevant. I have played it in both and been happy with both. We have Nissa, the Vastwood Seer, which flips into her first Planeswalker, the Sage Animist. Tovolar's Huntmaster, which we have turned into the pack leader. Arlen Cord, into the Embraced by the Moon. And then we have the newest Arlen, the Pack's Hope, which transforms into the Moon's Fury. Dennick, Pious Apprentice, which turns into an Apparition. He did. Hidana's Climb, another great card for Commander. Those 1/1 counters and giving your creature flying. Or not flying. Yeah, it's the backside that gives it flying. Yeah, that is huge. So yeah, pumps your creatures, turns into a land, buffs creatures, it gives evasion. Journey to Eternity was another great one. To be honest, most of these ones from Ixalan really have some great use in Commander if you aren't utilizing them. The Cave of Eternity, just turning into a legendary land that reanimates creatures from graveyards. From your graveyard specifically, but still, it's on a land. So hard to deal with. Ludovic, Necrogenius, into his Oleg, he turned himself into a zombie. Mila, the Crafty Companion, with her buddy, Luca, the Wayward Bonder. And unless something happened in the story where something changed, she's definitely very dead. Plarg, Dean of Chaos, and Augusta, the Dean of Order. I'm not sure if both of those people are alive. They might have died in the story as well. Same thing with this guy, Shale and Ambrose. I know a good chunk of the people at Strixhaven got messed up in the war. Valentine, Dean of the Deep, and Lizette, Dean of the Root. Azor's Gateway. This one is kind of hard to pull off in Commander. It's discarding 5 different CMCs. It's going to take you usually 5 turns, and people will realize, hey, maybe we should blow this up before you get that 5th card, and then, you just kind of looted 4 times. So it's okay. I mean, if you are able to flip it, this is huge. It's a huge amount of mana, so if you can get there, it's definitely strong. Dowsing Dagger. Dowsing Dagger is actually a lot easier to flip in Commander than people think, and then all of a sudden you just have a land that adds 3 mana of any color. Very good. Treasure Map is one I recommend for those heavy treasure-related decks, and it's a lot easier to make treasure-related decks now. The backside of this, being able to have a land that sacks treasures to draw a card and utilize those extra treasures, very efficient. Thematic Compass is still playable. It flips into a decent land. Being able to untap. It's basically a Caracas. Or not Caracas. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name. But being able to, turn into a good land with a remove of attacking creatures from combat effect. Maze of Ith type land. Very effective. Branchway Pathway. So we got all the pathways here. All these are good modal lands for Commander. I highly recommend, if you don't have them, picking them up. I think they've gotten a lot cheaper as of late. And they just fit into these dual color decks. They're very easy to use. Also, another recommendation, if you don't use them for your decks with dual face cards or modal face cards, I highly recommend playing with double sleeved so that when you pull them out, you're not going to be consistently damaging them. Alright, so we got all these pathways. We haven't had the foil yet besides the first 8. I'm kind of surprised. And, yeah, there's some really good ones out there. And again, I highly recommend playing all these modal lands modal spells that have lands on the back. They're just really, really effective in Commander. When you're mana screwed and it's like, alright, I actually don't need the spell. I can just play this land on turn 1 or turn 2. Definitely worth it. Oh, good old Garrick. We haven't seen Garrick in quite a while. I'm hoping he becomes relevant again in this next story. I like to see him come back and be like, yeah, I kept my spark, and I'm still going around murdering people. Elbrus, the Blinding Blade, into Withengar, the Unbound. I don't think I've ever seen this guy actually get flipped in a Commander game, but, I know it's been done. Sisse, Weatherlight Captain. Wait, that's an interesting one. She doesn't flip. Oh yeah, so what is it? Half the deck flips and half the deck doesn't? Okay. Alright, so we got Sisse, we got Urza's Ruinous Blast, the Talpa, Sphinx of the Second Sun. Interesting one that, the right deck does a lot of work. Getting an additional beginning phase, untap, upkeep, draw is huge. Absolutely huge if you're with the right decks, because there's a lot of decks that have at the beginning of your upkeep effects, and then you untap your mana, you draw a card, you get the upkeep of you go untap, upkeep, you get all those triggers, you draw a card, it ends your turn, and then you have flash spells to play. This guy gets a lot of work in the right decks. Speaking of getting work in a lot of decks, Beast Whisperer, always good in the creature heavy Commander decks. Guardian Project, same thing. Doriel's alright. Imara, Soul of the Accord, definitely a lot better now with how they brought back a lot of Convoke-related stuff. Keenan, Bonder Prodigy, Time Wipe, Utter End, Triplicate Titan, Scattered Grove, Sheltered Thicket, The World Tree, Diluvian Primordial, great OG Commander card that used to be just like, all the Primordials were key in Commander when it first began, because they were just so strong for their mana value. They got a whole lot of play. They were top tiers, kind of like the first set of Titans back in the day. Those guys got a lot of play, and now all of these guys are kind of on the meh end. They're playable, but they're not as busted as with the power creep has gone through the years. I mean, the Sylvan Primordial is still banned, but that guy is still bannable. He is so powerful, and it just leads to degenerate gameplay that people dislike. Oh yeah, come into play, reanimate on like turn 2 or 3, get lands, ramp ahead, win the game. Beast Within, Farseek, Harmonize, Provisioner, Putrefy, Raise the Redeemed, Altar the Pantheon, Arcane Signet, Chromatic Lantern, Commander Sphere, Felwar Stone. So no other foils besides the first few? Okay. Sandstorm Oracle, Soul Ring, Commander Tower, Evolving Wilds, like Orchard, Jungle Shrine, Bivouac, Opulent Palace, Path of Ancestry, Rimewood Falls, Sandstep Citadel, Savage Lands, Seaside Citadel, Terramorphic Expanse, Vivid Road, Chasm. Well, at least out of the gate, the lands are decent enough that you could play this. It's not the best mana fixing, but it's not the worst mana fixing. Then we have our tokens. And this time, the bonus card is a lot better than a basic land. I knew about this ahead of time from one of my friends. We have Delver of Secrets. And this guy definitely gets to see play in the older formats. Was transformed into the Insectile Aberration. It's pretty sweet. Those guys had a lot of reprints over the years, so he's not quite the expensive card that he used to be, but this is definitely a lot better card to get than the basic land that we got in the Heads I Win, Tails You Lose, which took a year to get to us. Again, that was the biggest thing about the last one, that just about everybody I talked to who got it and all the comments I read on the internet was that people had to wait so darn long to be able to get that Heads I Win, Tails You Lose, that it was ridiculous. And know that there were some different factors between like the coin, printing issue, and getting that into the decks, and some other issues. But you know, a year was an incredible amount of time, and we got this one in a couple weeks. A lot more reasonable. Thank you for joining me, Planeswalkers. Always glad to have you here. Tell me what you think in the comments, and I'm looking forward to seeing you here on the next video.